Okay, let's look at some selection tools. Now, Photoshop being a program that works with bitmap images made up of pixels, you can select parts of an image, pixel by pixel basically. And there are a few different selection tools. One of the ones that you might use the most is the rectangular marquee tool, which also has an elliptical marquee tool under it. As you know, by clicking and holding on a tool, it'll show you the nest of tools that lives under there. So when in that tool, I can simply click and drag to make any selection that I want. Keeping in mind, it's only going to select the section inside that shape that's part of the layer that I'm on. It will only ever work with the layer that you have activated at the time. If you want to deselect any selection, you simply go Command or Control on a PC, D for deselect, and it will take that selection away. In the same tool, if I hold down Shift, it will make a square. So that's kind of standard across a number of programs, holding down Shift to keep a proportional shape. If I was to copy and paste by keyboard shortcuts that are common across many programs, Command C, Command V, as you can see, I get that section that was inside that shape and section of the yellow circle here, because that's the layer I was on, and that section, when it's pasted back down, pops onto a new layer. It won't paste onto that same layer. It'll make a new one. And I can simply hit delete to get rid of that. So obviously with the ellipse tool under there, I could equally make a selection based on a circle. Underneath that tool is the lasso tool, as it is currently set on, with the keyboard shortcut being L. If you hold on that and look under here, there's two other selection tools that we'll get to in a moment. The lasso tool is a freehand selection tool, so you can just draw any shape you want, and if you just let go, it'll join that line with the beginning of your line and make that shape. If you want to add to this selection, you can hold down the Shift key and add more to it, and it'll add that on. If you want to take away from that selection, you can hold down the Option key and take away from that selection, which is great to know, and then deselect that. Now, underneath there, the polygonal lasso tool is straight lines between clicks. So this has some great uses, and again, if you double click when you finish, it'll join up with your starting point, and there's your shape. And in any of these, you can hold down Shift to add to your selection or Option to take away from your selection. The magnetic lasso tool will sort of stick to, I find it quite inaccurate and I almost never use it. But if you follow along close to a selection, it will kind of grip to it. But as you can see, it's not all that amazing. And then double click to finalize your selection. Below that is the magic wand tool. And there's a couple more tools in this nest, but the magic wand tool is the one you're most likely to use. And this means that it will auto detect the edges. If you just click inside that circle, it's going to detect those edges and go to those edges and make that selection. If I go to a layer further down here where I have a yellow circle, if I isolate that layer, you can see I've got a yellow circle on a solid white background, so therefore the area around the circle is not empty, it's solid white. I can either, first of all, I need to be on that layer, I can click on that circle, or I can click on the white space around it, and it has selected that. So if I wanted to get rid of that white space, I could then hit delete, and you can see in the thumbnail that that's gone. If I turn that plain white background off, you can see that it's gone, if you wanted to do that. Going back to a basic selection tool, something that's important to understand, if I hit V on the keyboard, that's the shortcut for the move tool. To click on an object, if you look over in my layers dock, as I click around the different objects, it's selecting different layers automatically. That's because up here on the top left, you'll see that auto select is checked. If I uncheck that, now if I click on other layers, nothing happens. I work always with that on, but there are times where it can be annoying when you accidentally click something that you don't even notice and you're on the wrong layer, and you might do something to that layer unintentionally when it was meant to be on a separate layer, and you can mess with your image in that way. So you do want to be aware of that. So having to manually select your layer can have its uses, but most often having it on auto select is better because it's just faster. You can click on things that you want.